of an active research program. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Sébastien Le Chevalier.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. And I will use this very magic formula, all protocol observe, to switch directly to my presentation. Before this, I would like to really thank the organizer for their kind invitation. I'm very impressed by this conference, and it shows by itself how big is the potential of collaboration between Malaysia and France and Europe. So I really hope it's just a first step of further collaboration. Next time, please come to France. And if you follow, I hope I will be luckier than Professor Petit. If I can reach the last slide, I will give you some information about event we will organize in France in June 2017, and you are cordially invited. Let me switch to my presentation. So the purpose of this presentation will be a little theoretical, but I will try to be as concrete as possible. And also, I'm not at all, I have absolutely no knowledge about Malaysian capitalism. The specialist is just in front of me. I hope some of the topic I will consider may be of direct interest for you, even if my mention is implicit. My purpose is to introduce this research program on diversity of capitalism in Asia, and I hope also I can give you some informative some information on people and institutions that are involved in this research program. So if it's, yes, it's working, perfect. Let me give you first some information about where I talk from. I'm an economist. I did my PhD not directly under the supervision of Professor Petit, but we were in the same group a few years ago. And in 2012, we created within a big organization which is called the Society for Advancement of Socioeconomics. We created a research network on Asian capitalism. So it's really the core, I hope, of this conference, and I see in this initiative a potentiality for collaboration. We have every year a meeting. 1 year it's in the US, 1 year it's in Europe. Every year it's about 1,000 scholars gathering and giving talks. I will mention that next year in June it will be in Lyon, so in 2 hours by train from Paris. And for the first year in 2008, I'm one of the initiators of organizing this international meeting in Kyoto, and I hope many Malaysian colleagues will join. We publish various books and journals related to this research program, and they are available on the internet or in the libraries of your universities. It's not working so well, but let's... Oh, can you press? Yeah, okay. So it went too fast now. I need your help. Okay, it's good. Okay, so the basis of what I will introduce today is the idea that in the research programs that have been introduced just before me by Professor Petit, we had a focus on transatlantic perspective, basically. The research program on the diversity of capitalism has been basically a comparison between the US, so a typical liberal market economy, and Europe in its diversity, which has been called by some other research program coordinated market economies. And what we have tried to do, first about Japan, about 20 or 30 years ago, and more recently about other Asian economies has been to introduce Asia in the comparison. And believe me, introducing Asia, of course, adds some diversity, but force us to revise our concept. And it has been a huge effort for us. It's a kind of big challenge for us to incorporate Asia in its diversity to discuss about topic I will introduce. So what I will do today, there will be, please stay until the end of my talk, 5 minutes that will be a little boring, describing some concept. And in the second stage, I will review 5 questions that could be of interest for you. Of course, I will give this, I will adopt the perspective from Asian capitalism in general, not Malaysian capitalism, but I hope there will be some insight for you. So let's start very quickly with the boring part, if it can move a little. Yes, again. Yes. So maybe difficult to see from where you are. It's taken from a book my colleague Bruno Amable. He tried to, so I will not enter into the concept, but when you talk about the concept of capitalism, it's very abstract. Even diversity of capitalism may sound a little theoretical and abstract. He tried using OECD data to make it more operational and to give a picture of this diversity. So I will, if we switch, yes, move again. Entering into the detail of this typology, Amable and others try to look at different institutional domains. So, of course, financial sector, employment relations, education system, state intervention, and through statistical analysis, he tried to identify some regularities. And if you move backward, if you can move backward, please, if you can move backward, 2 slides before, yes, because I will not be able, backward, yes. You see that Asian capitalism, which is in his case, Asian capitalism is based on OECD data. So he just look at Japan and Korea, basically. So it's a poor understanding of Asia in its diversity. But it seems that these 2 countries form a different model if you look at the domain I consider. So this typology has been extended by 2 Japanese researchers, and I will ask you to move again. Yes, this paper by Professor Harada and Toyama introduce extension of this work, considering other domains, and more importantly for you, introducing China, ASEAN countries, including Malaysia, to see whether there is introducing more Asian countries lead to a confirmation of the first typology. And what they found, if you can move, again, okay, again, maybe let's stop here. It may seem to be a little descriptive, but using, again, a certain definition of institution and using some statistical tools, basically cluster analysis, they found that first, Asian capitalism are different from European and US capitalism, and they confirm what all of you knew already. Maybe there is no great achievement here, but nonetheless is confirmed by rigorous analysis that within Asia there is a great diversity. And as you can see, and it may be discussed by you who know much better than me the diversity of Asian capitalism, that to me at least a little surprisingly, Malaysia is and Thailand are separated from Indonesia, for example, and are forming a form of capitalism which is led by trade rather by innovation or agrarian dynamics. If we continue, we move forward, I would like to move to the next step, which is institutional change. What I briefly introduced until now is very static. We try to have, at a certain point, a picture of the diversity. The problem with a country like Malaysia, you are growing so fast for a European standard, you are evolving so quickly from the viewpoint of institution that we have forced to adopt a more dynamic perspective. And this is what we call institutional change. The basic question we addressed with this program is to understand exactly, as Professor Petit mentioned, why more than 30 years of neoliberalization, so basically making market more free, liberalizing, privatizing the public sector, why this process did not lead to a convergence toward a single model, basically the US model of free market. It's not observed, we still have a diversity, and we don't understand why the process of liberalization, in a sense, created more diversity than convergence. And let me mention from this viewpoint an ongoing research program with my colleague from EHSS, Waseda University in Japan, Oxford University in the UK, and Freie Universität in Berlin. This program will continue 3 more years, and I will be very happy to come back again in 2019 here in Kuala Lumpur to introduce the major result of this program. And now it's functioning, it's wonderful, approximately, maybe not. Okay, so could you move to the next slide? So now I will introduce again, I will introduce 5 topics. I think I still have 10 minutes or so. I will introduce 5 topics for which maybe these are questions you address regularly as a research center or in the media or in your discussion. I think this research program can give interesting answer to the 5 questions I will address very quickly. First is one, I saw it's one of the questions addressed in your research program at the Kazana Research Institute, how to escape from the so-called middle income trap. And one answer is innovation, productivity. And immediately, and it was one question addressed during the press conference we had, one solution appears to follow what has been so successful in one part of California, the Silicon Valley, promotion of startup. And what we can learn from this literature is that there is not one single model for innovation. There is not one single model to improve productivity. And looking, for example, closer to you than the Silicon Valley, looking at the Korean model will not be maybe a model reproducible for Malaysia, but it shows the diversity of innovation model. Because I have only 5 minutes, I will switch to next topic, and the next topic is state intervention. 15 years ago, it was no more possible, even in a country like France, which is known for important state intervention, it was no more possible to talk about industrial policy. For some reason, during the last 15 years, we have observed a kind of revival of industrial policy, and in the Asian context, a kind of revival of the so-called developmental state, this particular function of the state that has been observed in Asian countries, which is trying to adopt strategic decision to improve, to upgrade the industrial structure. So there are various works that has been done and forthcoming. If you can move a little, even more. Yeah, I will just, because I don't have time, I will just mention one interesting case to me. thesis, a paper that will appear in a special issue of a journal edited by Haijun Chang. Maybe you heard about this economist. These days, after 30 years of economic liberalization, we observe a revival of state intervention in two countries like Japan and Korea. State intervention, at least in the intention. You saw, for example, the concept of Abenomics, the new economic policy introduced in Japan. This is a kind of voluntarism to improve the economic situation. It's still, the core is still free market liberalization, but there is effort by the state to adopt strategic decisions. The problem is, if I can move to the next slide, please. May I move to the next slide, please? Yes, the problem for these two countries, both Japan and Korea, very rich, with a very powerful financial system. Contrary maybe to your own country, they don't have a financial institution that will be equivalent maybe to Kazana, relatively to the size of their economy. They don't have a financial arm able to implement strategic decisions. And this paper I wrote with two other colleagues explain the kind of contradiction between a wish to improve, to upgrade the industrial structure, and after 30 years of liberalization, some inability of the state to develop financial tools as they did in the past, to promote a new industrial policy. I will move to another issue, which is partly relative. Yes, the issue of economic interdependencies in Asia by comparison to Europe. For us, the EU, for many years, has been a model, and to a certain extent, it's still a model, despite the Brexit and despite the surge of populism in our countries. But what is interesting, as you know, the type of regional integration we have in Europe has been very different than the one you adopted in ASEAN. Basically, in our case, it started with a political wish, political program, while in your case, corporate sector, economic sector has been more dynamic in building your economic region. Nonetheless, in both cases, we are facing a similar problem. How, for a country like France, for a country like Malaysia, how should we specialize in a context of globalization, regional integration, and more importantly, fragmentation of production? And here again, the key element is diversity of possibilities to identify the best position in global value chains. There is not one best strategy, not one best way to get the benefits of globalization. I will move to the next topic. I'm aware again that inequalities is a major concern in your country, and it's a part of the research program of Kazana. There is a kind of paradox, starting with the case of Malaysia. Malaysia is this country where poverty has almost disappeared. It has been drastically reduced, and certainly partly thanks to globalization, certainly thanks also to a program of your government. But at the same time, you observe increase of inequalities. So the most extreme form of inequalities has disappeared, poor against rich, but nonetheless, you have new forms of inequalities. And it's not easy to understand. And if you move, yes, to this slide, the major contribution of our research program is to consider that, in fact, also through the book of my colleague from EHSS, Thomas Piketty, we may identify some global trends that explain this increasing trend of diversity, of inequalities. In fact, if you look at the detail of institution, you see a more diverse mechanism for each country that may explain why you observe increasing inequalities in Malaysia, in the US, or in France. I don't have time to enter into the detail, but because we have a roundtable later, I hope I will try. I will, if you give me 1 minute and 30 seconds, I will move to my final topic. I can stay here, welfare. Welfare. In a sense, welfare states were born in Europe, and for many years, many decades, scholars, European scholars, have thought the phenomenon of welfare system with European eyes. Looking at this picture shows you that it's time now to change our glasses, because something is happening in Asia, first in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, now in China. I guess you have also important issues of welfare in Malaysia and in other ASEAN countries. It's time to have a different understanding of welfare. And my last 30 seconds will be dedicated to my last slide. If you may move to the last slide, please. Last slide. Conclusion. Yes, again, yes. So the last slide is just to kindly invite you to France in June 2017. Last week of 2017, we will have 2 important events to which all of you, Malaysian scholars and people interested in this topic, are invited. First will be in Paris, from 26 to 28 of June. This is organized by the French Network for Asian Studies, and we have this congress every 2 years. About 800 people, of course, French scholars, but also people from Europe, the US, Japan, Korea. Last time in 2015, there were only a limited number of Malaysian scholars, only 2. We hope sincerely, please come to see me at the end of this conference. We sincerely hope to attract more Malaysian scholars, and we're sure that the French embassy will be very happy. French embassy in Malaysia will be very happy to support invitation from us to Malaysian scholars. And the second event is the one I mentioned, SACE Conference, a network on Asian capitalism, to be held in another wonderful city in Lyon. Delicious food, delicious wine, beautiful landscape, and very interesting conference. You are all welcome to France in late June 2017. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Le Chevalier, for that brilliant overview of the diverse capitalist market